since there's no questions, I'm going to work on the next solver here, which, let me pull up BloodHound. So let's see, the next solver on the list, we just did the support resistance last time, so we'll do the Dorschden Swing Trend this time here. So let me prepare my chart for that. Let's see. Alright, so to help illustrate that, I'm going to put on one of the indicators that comes with BloodHound. So the SI swings. Now the SI swings came from Dorschden, and the original indicator name was price action swings. Let's see, there we go. So there's the original indicator name, and all that Jeremy did is, I think he just kind of cut out some of the stuff that was unnecessary to make it a little leaner and cleaner, and and renamed it here. So so if you want the original indicator, it's price action swing, and actually I'm sorry, I think it's price action swing trend. Actually, I think is the original indicator. Sorry about that. And you can find this up on Big Mike's. So all right, so let's see. I'm gonna add that on the chart, and I'll just use the default settings here. So we got a swing sensitivity of 3 and a double top, double bottom of 1. Which I think the double top and double bottom threshold here is just for the text labels. So let me hit apply here. So you see visually on the chart, this indicator is nice for just identifying and labeling, the various swing points on here. And so let's see, the double top, double bottom threshold applies. Let's see, there's a double bottom right here. So DB, double bottom, and so this double bottom is probably referencing this higher low right back here. So if I change this to 0.5, that double bottom is probably going to go away. And no, it's still there. Let's see. Yep, there we go. So I just made the double top, double bottom threshold a little smaller, and then it became a lower low as such. So right, so this just applies to the labeling on the chart there. So let's see, these labels can be read in BloodHound, and I'll kind of demonstrate that later. But you got to realize that these labels can only be placed after a low point has been identified, right? So it always takes 1, 2, or maybe 3 bars later, for price to reverse before any kind of swing point, can be identified. So so no indicator can tell you that this is going to be the lower low on that exact bar, right? There's always a delay factor built in before you can identify when a low is positively put in there. So let's see, let me get this on here. So the solver that we're going to look at identifies these various swings, and by default this solver, so here's the solver, the Dorschden Swing Trend solver here. So I'm just going to put it on the solver board for now, and later on I'll switch over to the logic tab. So let's see here. Right, so the swing sensitivity is 3, just as I had on my indicator. So the indicator on the chart, the swing sensitivity is set to 3, and let's see, my double top and double bottom is set to a 1 ATR. So I'll just change that in the solver here. All right. So now what we can see is that internally the indicator has a hidden data series that tells you the overall or the broader trend by breaking high points and breaking low points. So for example, when this high point was broken, then the indicator decided that we're in an uptrend now. And here, let me kind of stretch this out a little bit. There we go. Right, so when this most recent high point was broken, that switched the broader trend to a uptrend. And when the most recent low point was broken, like so, then it switched to a downtrend. Right, so the logic for the uptrend and downtrend is pretty simple. So you know, I can't explain, TB's asking, can you please explain the practical meaning of the swing sensitivity? So yeah, I can demonstrate it to you. I can't get into a lot of technical detail because, as I said, we didn't rate these indicators. Dorschden just gave us permission to use them with BloodHound. You know, and we thought, you know, having some kind of a price action trend identifiers would be pretty helpful. So, but let's yeah, let me just go into the indicator on the chart, and I'll change the sensitivity. Let's double it. Let's go up to 6. So we can see, so that point and that point used to be identified as swing points, right? This used to be a low and this was a high, but now it's being ignored. So that's what the swing sensitivity does, is it'll just look at the bigger swing points and ignore these smaller ones. So I think we also had a low point over here, and yeah, remember also, oops, let's see, this was a low point as well. I mean, I'm sorry, that was a high point as well. That was a high point, and now it's being ignored here. So now remember, I just changed the indicator settings on the chart, but not in BloodHound. So we could see that BloodHound, the solver for BloodHound, is still referencing. It's still referencing this high point because the swing sensitivity is still set to 3. But on the chart, we set it to 6. So let me open up BloodHound here, and we'll make sure that the solver in BloodHound matches what's on the chart. And I believe this change from downtrend to uptrend should change here. Yep, there we go. So now that the solver matches the indicator on the chart, we can see once this gets broken, like so, then the trend changes. Right? So swing sensitivity is basically so you can, you know, I guess if you're wanting to use this in a scalping system, you know, you're probably wanting to look at low, all the little minor swing points. But you know, if you're building a broader, longer term trend, if you want to look at the longer term, broader term trend, then you'll want to use a higher number here. So let's see. Here, I'll double this again. We'll see how what changes are made. So if we look at the chart now, let's see, we got a actually, what I should do is mark these here. let's mark these. All right, so we got a high, a low, a high point, low point, high point, low. So I'll just mark a bunch of these before I change the swing sensitivity. Alright, that ought to be good enough. Alright, yeah, there we go. So that made a big difference. Changing it to 12, we can see it just went from this high all the way down to this low, and it ignored all these intermediate swing points here. It just ignored all these others. So there's the swing sensitivity for you. All right. Let's see. Let me clear everything off of here. So really, that's this Dorschden Swing Trend solver is very simple, very basic. You know, it just looks at the, you know, it just looks at that SI swing indicator, and it looks at it internally, you know, to see what the broader trend is. So you know, it's really its only function. It's a very simple solver here. So you can in the solver, just as in the indicator, if you don't want to control your double tops and double bottom threshold by ATRs, you can change this over to points or ticks. You know, so if we want, we could say, you know, a double bottom has to be within 5 ticks, you know, to get a double bottom, something like that. So here, I'll set this back to the default settings here with a swing sensitivity of 3, and I set my double bottoms to 5. However, I really need to make those changes to the indicator on the chart so that we can actually see the labels. So so this is the indicator on the chart, and there we go. So 5 ticks, a 3 swing sensitivity. And yeah, okay. So let me grab an arrow. So as we look across, we have a double top, and it's within 5 ticks of the previous one. And this one is, this double top is within 5 ticks of the previous high. And so this double bottom is within 5 ticks of the previous low, right, and so forth. So, you know, pretty simple indicator. Let's see. So I can show you, while we're on the topic of the SI swing indicator, I'll show you some of the inner data, some of the data that's available within the SI swing indicator. So let's see. All right, so let's see. I kind of just jumped into this. You know, the first thing I should have done was I should have named my BloodHound file here. So let me name this before I get going. There we go. And today's the 21st. This month seems to be going by pretty quick. Alright, so there we go. Got the file named. So, to show you more about the SI swing indicator, right, so to show you more about this indicator, I'm going to start working on the logic board here. So let's see. Alright, name my logic template. And so this is the solver that I had built on the solver tab over here. So that and this is one and the same. And now I'm going to add a threshold solver here. I'm going to use this threshold solver to show you all the various pieces of data that's available in that SI swing indicator. So let's go in here, let's change our SMA to SI swings. So you'll see there's lots of different data series in here, right? So this default plot doesn't actually doesn't do anything, it doesn't contain any value. So this plot is not the lines here. So you see the red and the green lines on the chart, that's actually not a plot, that's actually a line object. So BloodHound doesn't actually read that line object since it's not a plot. But if we look at all this information here, so the solver, the Dorschden Swing Trend solver that I just showed you, it's looking at the overall trend. So let's set that up there, and let's see, our swing sensitivity is 3, so that's good, and just to be consistent, let's change the threshold to ticks, and we'll change it to 5 ticks, like so. Alright, so 5 tick threshold, and swing sensitivity of 3. And we're using the overall trend. And next I need to set up my outputs here. You can see all my outputs are set to 0 for the threshold, so that's why there's no output yet. So let's do this. Alright, so let me just mark where the uptrend starts, and I'll mark where the downtrend starts. And so if we look at these two solvers, alright, so the Dorschden swing solver has the same swing sensitivity, right? We got to make sure that we have the indicator settings matching the same. And so we can see we get the same results. So this solver is essentially kind of looking at it. It's looking at this data series, right? Because this is really the most useful out of all this information here. So there is other information that Dorschden programmed into this indicator, but it's some of it's not quite too practical within BloodHound. So if you're writing like code, if you're writing your own custom code strategy, and you want to know what the swing length is, you have access to that. But using this in BloodHound, it's not useful. I guess there's really no way to kind of use the swing length information in BloodHound. It requires a lot more complexity in writing custom code and stuff like that. So the swing direction, so this right here, the swing direction is, this might be more useful to you guys. That is the actual, the smaller swing lines here. So the green and the red swing lines, that's what the swing direction information is telling you. It's telling you when the green line has been identified and we get an uptrend, and when the red lines have been identified and then downtrend starts. So let's take a look at that next here. There. So you'll notice, so the line, right, the line started back there, and right, the green line started back here, but the uptrend wasn't identified until this bar. right? And so, like I was saying at the very beginning, that you're right, when you're identifying swing points, there's always a delay in, with a certain number of bars. So it took this second up bar before the uptrend was identified. Even though the line prints all the way back here, the fact that the line prints back here is just a visual aid, visual convenience, right? It doesn't mean that the indicator identified the uptrend from this point. It means that the indicator identified the uptrend on this bar, right? So even, let's see, where's the other arrow? I'm gonna grab this arrow. All right, so the downtrend wasn't identified until we got to the second bar, right? After the second bar occurred, then the downtrend was identified, right? So you can see that there's always a couple of bars of delay, before the trend is identified. So, especially on these smaller ones, like this really small downtrend, it wasn't identified until the last bar, actually. All right, so just some things to be aware of. It might be a little more practical if you want to use the, swing direction information. It's probably going to be a little more practical if you change the swing sensitivity to something higher. So let's go to 5 this time. And let me make the change in BloodHound. Make the change to the indicator settings in BloodHound. So let's go into the indicator. Right, change our swing sensitivity to 5 here. So that way things match up, right? So once again, we're looking at the swing direction information. There we go. So this is probably a little more practical, right? Eliminating all these little minor highs and lows. So, and although you will notice that using a higher, trying to grab that one, using a higher swing sensitivity, it will add a little extra, a bar or two of delay in identifying that, right? And that's because the indicator is looking for bigger trends, so it doesn't want to change direction too soon. So we can see with the swing sensitivity of 3, the uptrend was identified on this bar, but with the swing sensitivity of 5, it was identified a bar later for this uptrend. So let's see, it looks like I might have some questions on this, so let me just take a moment to see if there's any questions on this topic. Wayne's got an interesting question. So Wayne's asking, how would you count the number of swings? So for instance, if you're in a downtrend and you don't want to take any new trades after the 3rd swing in a trend. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I don't think I've had that question before. So yeah, okay, guys, let me address those questions as soon as I kind of finish running through some of the other information that's available in this SI swings indicator. So let's cover some of these other data series here. Let's see, swing duration. Once again, that if I remember correctly, that tells you the number of bars in each of the swings. So let's see, that I don't really see that as being usable in BloodHound. I guess you could use it, but I don't really see any practical use for it. Let's see, and then there's the swing bar number. So if you're writing code, when you're writing code, each bar has a number. So if there's 2,000, let's say, let's close this out here. So if there's 2,000 bars on my chart, the last bar is going to be bar number 2,000, and the very first bar all the way on the right of my chart is going to be bar 0. So let's see. So that's what the bar number is. So swing bar number. So that's identifying the bar number of the swing point. So like this higher high, you can get the bar number of that. Once again, that's really for custom coding, that type of information. And the swing price. So you can get the price point of this swing. Right, so each of these swings have a price point. Once again, this is a piece of information that would be stored in a variable for custom programming. I really don't see that being too useful in BloodHound. So really the only useful stuff in BloodHound is the swing direction and the overall trend direction. So let's see, swing length. Yeah, maybe here's something practical. Let's just say, for example, we want to identify these longer swings, right? So we got a nice long swing here, right? And let's say we kind of wanted to, wrong line. Let's see, that's what I want. Let's say we wanted to ignore these shorter swings here, right? And we wanted to ignore these short swings here. So I guess we could use the swing length to identify when a really long swing occurred. So let's see. Well, I'm going to name this threshold solver here. All right, so this solver is looking at the overall trend, and I'm just going to make a new one here. So let's just grab a new one. All right, we'll have this one look at the swing length. So let me go get the swings indicator in here, and I believe we're using a swing of 5. That's a swing length. And just want to double check to make sure. On the chart, yeah, my swing sensitivity is set to 5 on the chart. Good, okay. So, and swing sensitivity for the solver is set to 5 as well. Okay, we got the swing length. So, I'm just kind of gonna guesstimate this. This looks like this is more than 15 bars. So, let's see, let's put 15 in here. And let's connect the solver up. Helps if we connect our solver up. Yeah, I'm not getting what I expected. well, I thought this was spitting out the swing length here. Swing duration. Maybe it's swing duration. Let's take a look at that. Oh, okay. There we go. Swing duration is counting the number of bars. Let's see. So we got 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so that's the 15th bar. Actually, duration could be, let's see, I think duration's probably actually counting time. Yeah, I think duration is actually counting time. Yeah, because if I look at the time at this low point here, 9:59, and then when we get to this bar, 10:14, so that is 15 minutes. Let's see. So at least the duration seems to be understandable. So if you want to, check for swings, that of a certain time limit, we can do that. Yeah, it's swing length. So like I said, guys, I don't know positively what this stuff is. I just, I remember this stuff from using the original indicator a long time ago. And also, let's see, if we have the, let me try and get the original indicator on here. Yeah, so there's the original indicator. And the original indicator has the option, let's see, to print out all that data. So all the information in that data series, the original indicator will print it out on a chart. Let's see. Actually, it doesn't look like it's the trend. Let's go to price action swing. Here we go, statistics. I think this is it. Here we go. Yeah, swing duration, swing length. Turn that on. Swing length. Oh, swing length is in points. Ticks. Aha. Okay. Yeah, so this helped me figure out what swing length is. It looks like it's measuring the height of the swing. Okay, it's measuring the height of the swing move. And, well, unfortunately, all that information, you can see there's additional information on here, but it's all it's being crunched on top of itself. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so the original indicator would put some of that information on there. So, okay, I'm going to remove that. Let's get back to the SI swing indicator. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I drew 2 lines, and I'm going to move the second line up 15 ticks. So let's see, 21, 21. Yeah, okay, now this is starting to make sense. Alright, sometimes you got to back engineer this stuff. So let's see, getting back to the swing length. There we go. So swing length is measuring the height of the move, not the length of the move. I'd say it's probably just a translation, just an error in translation. So I'm kind of guessing that Dorschden is European, maybe German or some other European, so probably just a translation issue. So instead of length, actually this is swing height here. Which I guess that could be useful for you guys. So if we, we could say that, we only want to look for swing moves that are, let's say, greater than 40 ticks. Let's go for 40 ticks. All right. Let's go for, and it looks like we don't get a move that much. Let's go for 30 ticks. 30 ticks. There we go. All right. So it looks like, this swing move here was, or is 30 ticks in length. And all these other ones are shorter ones. Let's see if we have any other pretty long runs here. All right, looks like, yeah, it looks like we've got another run here of at least 30 ticks. And let's see. This run here is definitely 30 ticks as well, but we might be getting a negative value for a downtrend. So we'll test that here. We'll see. So let's put in negative 30 as well. Yeah, there we go. All right. Here's a great way of measuring stuff on the chart. I'm just going to draw a box. And I'm going to make this box 30 ticks high. And I can just put the box right here, and I can see, yep, we have an uptrend of at least 30 ticks, right? And I set the solver up so that, right, so the indicator is giving us a positive 30 if the swing move was more than 30 ticks for an upswing, and the indicator is outputting a negative value for the length of the downtrend. So this downtrend here. So we can see actually, if we look at this, as soon as we got to this bar here had moved down more than 30 ticks from this high point over here. And same thing over here. So this bar right there for this uptrend here, if we stick this here, yep, so the bar with the green arrow is the bar that actually exceeded our 30 tick requirement here. And let's see, even this move here, yeah, this move here, finally at the last bar of this swing, made that 30 tick move. And you'll notice that the indicator is outputting, right, the height of the swing. It's outputting that height until the swing changes direction. So, for example, right, so we have so we've got these 4 bars that are telling us that the this down move is more than 30 ticks in height, and so the indicator is telling us that until the uptrend is identified. So this uptrend here was identified on this bar. So now that we're in an uptrend, right, we're not getting any information anymore on this previous downtrend. So we're now getting information on this uptrend. Right, actually, let's do this. Here's a neat way that you can kind of analyze how indicators work in real time. This works with most indicators. What you have to do is disconnect from your data feed, and there we go. So I'm going to press F5 on the chart, and I'm going to step through. I'm going to use the arrow keys on my keyboard to step through. So you can see right here, right, the bar on the right edge is labeled a double bottom right now because technically it is a double bottom. But as I step forward, right, the next bar moved down, so now it becomes a lower low. It's still a lower low. Right, so we can see this indicator is updating itself as I step through each bar using the arrow key on my keyboard. So I can see what the indicator is doing in real time. And so here, on this bar is where price finally moves more than 30 ticks from the previous swing high. And so we're getting that identified from BloodHound, that we've moved down at least 30 ticks. And now if you look closely, let me stretch this out, right, the red line is still painted. There's no green line yet, right, so there's no uptrend identified yet. So the swing indicator, the SI swing indicator, is still in a downtrend mode, right, so it's still telling us that this downtrend at least moved 30 ticks down. So it doesn't mean that, right, so this output that we're getting doesn't mean that where price is 30 ticks from the high. It just means that this swing has made a 30 tick down move, even though price is moving up. So still there, so we're still in a downswing mode, and then eventually price moves up high enough to identify the uptrend. So now an uptrend has been identified, and so basically the indicator's not telling us anything about the previous downtrend anymore, because now we're in an uptrend. So alright, so we can just watch this indicator update itself. Just watch the label, right, and then the label turned into a double top. Right, so remember previously it was saying lower high, and then it turned into a double top. Still a double top. So we can see on this bar, this uptrend has made at least a 30 tick move to the uptrend, and even though price is moving down, we're still in an uptrend. Right, there's no red line yet, so we're still in an uptrend. Still in an uptrend. So even here we're still in an uptrend, even though prices move down here. Okay, now finally the downtrend has been identified. So we have a higher low identified. Right? So if you're kind of looking to understand how a indicator works, this is kind of like one of those ways that you can figure out how an indicator is working in real time, just by disconnecting your data feed, and you just scroll back on your chart. So like if I wanted to do this over again, all I had to do is scroll back on my chart like this, hit F5, update my chart, and then I can step through it all again like so. So there's a little tip of the day for you guys. Alright, let's get back to this information here. Okay, so we just learned that swing length is really the swing height. Swing duration looks like it's a measurement in time, so it's probably in minutes. Let's see, swing bar number. Actually, we'll test that one out. Let's test out the bar number. And let's see. So I'm going to take a shortcut here and just copy this solver. All right. And we'll add that solver there that I just made on the board. And let me go in here and change this over to the bar number, like so. So maybe a bar number counts the number of bars. So if you're interested in counting the number of bars, nope, okay. Just gotta scroll all the way back to the end of the chart. Yeah, all right. So I did get this one right. Let's see. So swing bar number is the literal number of the bar. So as NinjaTrader, right, counts the bars. So you know, this looks like this low point here was probably about bar 30 or something like that, or it was this swing low was the 30th bar or greater. Yeah, so I don't think this one is very practical. Let's see, swing price. I don't see much practical use, but I can at least show you how to use it. So let's see, let me go to the edge of the chart here. Yeah, okay. I'm just finding some price values on the chart here that I can use. So let's say if our swing point breaks $40.50 on oil, right? So just so you guys know, I'm putting this in here twice because it makes this clean digital type of an output, right? If I left this at 0, like so, we get more of an analog output. So, all right, so what I've done here is if one of these swing points is higher than $40.50 on oil, then I'm going to get a long output. If one of these swing points is lower than $40.10, I'm going to get a short output on here. Right, so here we go. See, so all of these swing points are higher than $40.50. So let's just put a line on here. right, so there's our $40.50 mark. So, right, so this long output is identifying the previous, right, this previous high point here. And then as soon as this low point is identified, then it turns off. So remember, there's always a couple of bar delay before a low point is actually locked in. There's always a couple of bars delay here. Let's see, and then I think somewhere over here we get a low point below. Let's see. I would have thought this low point would have been marked red. Oh, sorry, I made a mistake. Remember, threshold values always have to be in descending order. So having this 0 on top of this $40.10, that threw a monkey wrench in the system. So I need to put a value in between here. So let's just go 40.3, and there we go. So I had the threshold solver set up wrong. So there we go. So here, let's delete these lines on here. Alright, so as soon as this low point is identified, right, so this low point is identified when we get to this bar here. So this low point is below our 40.10 mark there. And it looks like this low point is still identified until we actually get to a downtrend. Until this higher high, basically it was identified once we got over to here. And here, actually, we can take a look at that. So if I hit F5 on my chart, and I can step through, so we can see this high is updating itself. Here we go. So we still have a higher high, and bingo, as soon as this downtrend is identified, right, the price for this low point is no longer being looked at. Now we're looking at the price for this high point here. So that's why the BloodHound's output doesn't turn off until we get way over here, because this bar is where this high point is identified at this bar. So that's how many bars of delay it took before this swing point was identified. So, and this swing point is above our 40.10 mark, so that's why the output stops. So let's see. So we got a double bottom there. Oh, there we go. So we should, there we go. So now, once this double bottom is locked in and identified, right? So once we get an uptrend, then this double bottom is locked in and identified, and it's below our 40.10. So now we have the short output telling us that the swing point is below $40.10. So, oh, and that's it. Data stops. So, you can use that. I don't see much of a practical use for it, but hey, it's out there for you guys. So once again, let's see, let's go over here. So this is looking at the swing price data coming from that indicator. So let's There we go, swing price. Alright, I'll just leave those solvers on there for some examples if you guys want them. So remember, if you want these BloodHound template files, all you have to do is just email us after the workshop and let us know, and we'll send them back to you guys. Alright, so let me, I'll switch on to your guys' questions here. Alright, so TB is asking, what's the difference between the SI swings and the SI swings highs lows? Yeah. So let me go find the swings, highs, lows. Alright, so we have SI swings and then swings, highs, lows. Let's add that on the chart here. So you'll see this indicator, it's got tightest tops, tightest bottoms, widest bottoms, and widest tops. And so those are the plots. So it's actually this indicator is going to plot out the various swing points, right? It's going to plot out these higher highs, these double bottoms, these lower highs, these higher lows. It's actually going to plot those out and identify those. So let's see, the swing. Yeah, we're using a swing sensitivity of 5. So I'm going to take my swing highs lows and change the swing sensitivity to 5 as well. So alright, so let's see, going back into this indicator, I have the tightest plots. The tightest plots are actually turned off right now. You can see they're set to transparent, and only the widest plots are turned on. So the widest plots are identifying the higher highs and the lower lows, right? And it's identifying that within a certain look back. Within a certain look back. Let's see. So so the swings, highs, lows is not going to correspond with the labeling of the swings indicator. Let's keep that in mind. So that even though this says lower high, but it's been identified as a higher high by the swings, highs, low indicator. So these labeling do not match up with the swings, highs, lows indicator. So we probably could get them to match up. Let's see if I change the number of swings. And yeah, so that matches up a little better. So, but let's see, in the tightest plots, let me turn these guys on here. Alright, so the gray lines are the tightest, and so the tightest ones identify these intermediate swing points. So yeah, we can see this one identifies that intermediate swing point, and right, we have this intermediate swing point right here. Right, so the widest, this widest plot is identifying the lowest low, where the tightest plot is identifying this intermediate swing point. Alright, so if you want to get into this indicator, if you want to learn a lot more about this indicator TB, there are workshop videos that cover this indicator already. So I'm just going to leave it as that, just to kind of identify the quick differences there. So maybe on another workshop, if you guys are interested, I can get into more detail with this indicator again. But for the sake of time, I'm going to get into I'm going to address some of these other questions that are coming in here. Okay, yeah, so, all right, so TB is asking, can you explain what the number of swings does? So, number of swings, let's see. I'll back up here. I'm going to hit refresh on my chart, and just a moment here. I'm going to turn the tightest plots off again. So just to kind of simplify things. Alright, so let's set this back to 3, back to its default. So essentially this number of swings indicators is the number of swings that the indicator looks back to find the higher highs and the lower lows. Let's see, let me go back a little bit more here. I'm going to press F5 here. And, alright, so let's see. We're currently in an uptrend, right? So just, you have to ignore the labels, but you can look at the colored lines, right? So the green line tells us that basically an uptrend is identified. Now that the number of swings from this indicator, it's looking back 3 swings. So let's see. So this is swing 1. So this down swing is swing 2, and this upswing is swing 3. Right, so it's looking back at all the swing points to find either the highest high or the lowest low. So if you look at the blue line, here, let me stretch this out a little bit. So we're currently in an uptrend, but this high point hasn't been locked in yet. It hasn't been locked in until the downtrend has been identified. So if we're looking back 3 swing points, let me grab an arrow. So since this hasn't been locked in yet, it's not known, right? This won't be known until it's locked in. So this is the only high point that's been locked in. So as we look back 3 swing points, right, we have 2 low points and we only have 1 high point as we look back 3 swings. So this currently is the only high point, and so that's what the indicator is identifying, is the high point, the highest high of the last 3 swings. So since that's the only high point, that's the highest high point. Now let's step forward, and okay, so now when I step, oops, there we go. So when I stepped forward 1 bar, price moved down enough so that this downtrend was identified, and as soon as this downtrend was identified, this high point got locked in, and then we can see the indicator jumped up to this high point, right? So now this is swing 1, this uptrend is swing 2, and this downtrend is swing 3. So as we look back 3 swings, this high point is higher than that high point looking back the last 3 swings. So since this is higher, the indicator, the whitest tops jumped up to that one. So let's see. We'll just let's see. Yeah, let's take a look at the widest bottoms now. So this is swing 1. However, this low hasn't been locked in yet. So as we look back, our 3 swings, this is the only low point looking back 3 swings, right? So, and it just happens that this price matches this price exactly, so that's why it looks the same. So it hasn't moved because both of these low points have an exact low point price here. But once this developing low point is locked in, the widest bottom will jump down to this lower low. So we're going to step forward a little bit. There we go. So we now have an uptrend identified that locks in this low point, and once this low point's locked in, we can see the plot jumps down to this low point here. So looking back, this, looking back the number of swings, this is the lowest of those 2 swing points. So, right, let's see. So if we up this to 5, then we're going to get less, right there, we're going to get less movement on the widest plots because the indicator can look back more swing points to try and find a highest high and the lowest low of all the swing points. So, yeah, let's see here. So let me move the chart back to here. So as we're looking back 5 swings now, right? So remember I set the indicator to look back 5 swings. The number of swings is 5. So this is still our highest high within our 5 swings. And this is still our lowest low looking back 5 swings. And let's just kind of step forward here. There we go. And let's see. So now when we look back 5 swings, this is the lowest low now. So basically we've got enough swing points have gone by where this swing point basically got dropped off the list because it's too far back. So as we count back, it's too far back. Right, so we so that's swing point 1. Swing point 2. Swing point 3. And 4. And swing point 5. And let me refresh the chart again. There we go. So yeah, so the triangles are marking the 5 swing points at which the indicator looks back. So this is the lowest low. So therefore the widest bottom steps up, moves up to the lowest low. And we can also see here, it looks like this is the highest high looking back here. There. All right, hope that helps, TB. All right, so let's see, let's move on to Wayne's question here. That's right, so Wayne wants to try and count the number of swings within a certain trend direction. So let's see. Let me think about that. So what we're going to need is we're going to need an indicator that communicates to BloodHound, whenever a swing point is identified. Let's see. I'm going to put an SMA on here, so we need, let's see, no. Let's see. Yeah, maybe I can do this all with using the swing indicator and swing high-low indicator. Alright, so we want to identify the number of swings in a trend. Let's see. All right, I'm gonna grab a new. Yeah, I'm gonna grab a new. Let's. Dorschden Swing Trend indicator. Let's see, I'll set the swing sensitivity. Let's see, let's set it up to 6 here. Yeah. All right, good. So here's a good example. We've got we have a nice long run here. Yeah, we've got a nice long down run here. Okay, so we'll use the Dorschden Swing Trend indicator to identify the overall. So remember, the Dorschden Swing Trend solver is identifying the overall trend. Let's shrink this up a little bit. There we go. So you can see it's identifying the overall trend. So we got a nice downtrend. And so now we're in a downtrend. We'd want to know if we want to start counting these swings here. Let's see. Yeah. So since we're in a downtrend, I'll make my example counting the number of low points made. Yeah, we'll count the number of low points made here. So let's put a number on here, white, and okay, so there's why does it keep opening that? Oh, all right, let me take myself off of stay in draw mode. There we go. Okay, grab this guy and that guy. All right, so there's 1, 2, 3 on our lows. All right, so let's see how to count those. I think we can use the swing highs lows to count those. Let's see. Let's just set our number of swings to 1. 1 or 2 actually, probably 2. Yeah, all right. So we can see, right, the whitest bottom plot is is identifying each of these low points whenever they occur. So there's no intermediate, right? So for example, right, there's kind of an intermediate low point made, right? We got a little jog in here, and that's being ignored by the swing high-low indicator, right? So that identifies 1, that identifies 2, that identifies 3. All right, so what we can do is whenever the plot changes, we can identify that whenever the plot changes. So it would be nicer if we had an indicator that would just give us a little data series or bool series that identifies this, but let's see. Yeah, I don't know of one that actually does that. So we're going to have to kind of do this in a roundabout way. So okay, so this solver is going to identify the overall trend, and then we're going to use a comparison solver to identify when all these plots step down, or basically whenever these plots change. So yeah, Wayne is suggesting that editing an indicator to do that would be helpful. Yep. You guys can always go and grab the original indicators and edit those to customize them to your guys' needs. That's always an option. And there's lots of programmers up on Big Mike's and Ninja site that might help you guys do that if you don't know how to code. Alright, so this is going to identify when the low points change, when the widest bottoms change. Alright, so I'm going to need to put the SI swing indicator in indicator A and indicator B. So it's important to set up the indicator, exactly the way you have it on the chart. So right, I'm using number of swings 2, swing sensitivity 5, and let's see, we'll use the widest bottoms to give us a short output, and I'll use the widest tops to give us a long output. Yeah, and we'll see how this works out here. Okay, so indicator A is set to the swings. Indicator B, we're also going to set to the swings, highs, lows. So let's get our indicator settings changed. Alright, and I'm going to select the same plot. So the widest tops, we're going to generate a long signal. Widest bottoms are going to generate a short signal. Right, so A and B, we set the indicators up exactly the same. Right, so we're not going to get anything yet, but now the difference is B, we're going to set the displacement to 1. So B basically is going to be looking back 1 bar. It's going to be looking back 1 bar. So looky here we go. So whenever the bottoms step down, right, we can see we're getting a short output marking whenever the bottom step down. And look here, when we get a long output when the tops step up. Yeah, so the tops, widest tops stepped up. In other words, a higher high was made and we get a long output. So higher high was made, long output. Right, lower low is made and we get a short output. So, you know, it looks, you know, it's going to look nice and clean when we got a nice, well-defined downtrend. But, let's see, back here, we can see we don't have any kind of trend well-defined, and we're just getting a bunch of mishmash signals there. So, right, I mean, that's to be expected because there's no well-defined trend. So, alright, so let's get back to our trend here. So now that we have these swings identified, and of course remember that there's always a delay when you're identifying a low point or high point, right? So we can't actually identify the exact low point, you know, until a few bars later. So we can count these short signals. And if we had a well-defined uptrend, yeah, we got somewhat of a uptrend here, and we can count these. We can count these long signals to count the high points, or to count the uptrends. Now you can, you know, change this solver around a little bit. So if you don't want to count the lows, you know, if you didn't want to count the lows, you could change this. You could change this solver so that it actually counts the high points if we wanted to. So let's see. Here, I'm going to change the name of this solver here. So let's say it's basically marking higher highs. It's marking higher highs and lower lows. So I'm going to make a copy of this guy, and we'll switch it around so that it's marking lower highs and higher lows. Right, so we're going to switch it around so it's actually marking these high points in a downtrend, and it'll mark low points in an uptrend. So I'm just changing the name for now, so I can add this on here, and now I'll go in and change the settings. So let's see. I have to go in here and actually change the plots I'm looking at. So if I want to identify these high points in a downtrend, I'm going to have to, let's see. Yeah, so I'm going to use the widest, I'm going to use these widest tops to generate a short signal, and I'll use the widest bottoms to generate a long signal. So let's reverse the plots that we're using in here as well, and see what we get. Yeah, look at that. There we go. So you can see whenever the high points are made, right? So when the widest tops, when the blue plot steps down, right, that's telling us that a lower high was made. And let's go over here. And when a low point is made, when a higher low point is made, right, our magenta line steps up. And so we're identifying when the lows step up. Low points are stepping up here. So, all right. So there's two ways that we can count our swing points here. So let's see. I'll just stick with this one here. I'll use the lows in a downtrend, and I'll use the highs in an uptrend. So set this off to the side. And let's see, before I get going too far, I need something to generate some signals. I need something that's going to generate some trade signals. Let's see. I think I'll just do something simple here. I'll just check for price crossing a moving average. Alright, there we go. I'm just curve fitting the period of my moving average to kind of make something look good here for this demo. Alright, so HMA period of 25. So let me go make a solver here that's going to generate some trade signals. Alright, so I'm just going to use a crossover solver here. And so whenever the closing price of the bar crosses our HMA, that's going to generate some simple trade signals, just so we have something to work with. Alright, so period of 25. Okay, good. So we got lots of trade signals in here, right? So the point of this exercise is, I was asked, we basically want to count the number of swing points in our downtrend and stop trading after a certain number of swing points. So let's kind of clean up our signals here. So if we're in a downtrend, right, we don't want any long signals. We only want short signals. So remember, I'm using the Dorschden Swing solver to identify the trend. Right, so this solver is going to filter out all the long trades. It's going to filter out all the long trades when we're in a downtrend like this. So, right, so let's take a look. Right, we've got lots of long signals. As soon as I connect our filter into the AND node, right, there we go. We got a lot of, so we got these filtered out trades now. So now we only have short trades in this downtrend. So right, so these are our signals. Right. So let me name this solver here. Alright, so something to keep in mind, a good practice for you guys is naming stuff. Definitely a good practice. Even your logic nodes, it's good to name them as well. Right, so you can see this AND node, I was able to go up here and rename it. So that tells me that tells me what's coming out of this AND node, are the signals here. So, alright, I'll just set this to the back, so that's our signals. And now we're gonna filter our signals out even more by counting the swing points. So after our third swing point is identified, we won't take any more short trades anymore. Alright, so here is, let's see, yeah, here's the swing points being identified, so we need to count this guy. So let's go to our signal counter. So there are a bunch of recorded workshops that cover the signal counter and cover various other ways of using the signal counter to count the number of signals and things like that, so you can limit how many trades are being taken in any trend. So there's other videos on this. So for the sake of time, I'm just gonna kind of go through this just briefly. I'm not going to cover it in detail. So because I do have other questions in here from other users. So all right, so let's see. First thing we want to do is when you're using the signal counter is, let's see, we want to count up to 3 signals. That's what we want to identify is our third swing point. So we're counting 3 signals. Now we have to use a look back period. You can't tell the computer look back forever. Otherwise you'll get 3 swing points, way back at the beginning of the chart, and then you'll never take a trade again. So you have to give the solver some kind of limitation as to how far back it's allowed to look when it's trying to count, these swing points. So my guess is, probably 100 bars is enough. So I'm just going to guess at 100 bars. I might have to increase that later, but I won't know that until I build the system out. And alright, so the next thing is we need to tell this solver when to stop counting. So basically right now we have a continuous long and short output, and that's because as this solver is looking back 100 bars, it's always finding three of these signals here as it looks back. So as it's been able to look back 100 bars, it's always able to find 3 of these signals here. So let's see. Yeah, so let me kind of explain here. So you can see the output here is stepping down. So this output is stepping down because from this bar, right where it stepped down, so from this bar, if we look back 100 bars, the signal counter was only able to count 2 out of the 3 signals, and that's why it stepped down. So when it got to here, it actually was able to count 3 signals looking back 100 bars again. And then it got to this point. So from this bar looking back 100 bars, it was only able to count 3 signals. And then eventually it got way over here. So now as it's looking back, it was only able to count one long signal. So the long output is when it's counting the long signals looking back. The short output is when it's counting the short signals looking back. So when it got to this bar, right, we have just a third. So the output here is 0.333. So that means it was able to count 1 long signal when it looked back. So if we look here again, yeah, so from this bar, it only had 1 long signal. Right here's that long signal looking back 100 bars. Right? So basically these long signals were more than 100 bars away from this bar, looking back. So that kind of identifies what, that explains why the output steps down like that. So, and that's also because we're using analog mode. So I'm actually going to switch this to digital mode. So it's a little cleaner. So either it does count 3 signals when it looks back, or it doesn't. Right, so now we can see the output here just disappeared because in this area it only found 2 signals or less. So we only get an output now when it finds 3 signals or more. And alright, so now on to the resets. So we do actually want to reset the counting. So let's take a look. Right, so we know that we can see that we've got this uptrend, and then I'm going to grab that arrow, and then we have this downtrend. Right, so right, so we want to count long signals when we're in this uptrend, but when we change trends, we no longer we can basically reset counting the long signals. We can reset that. We don't need the signal counter counting long signals anymore when this downtrend starts. Right, so remember we have this solver which is identifying these trends. So what I can do is I can use these signals to reset the counter. I can use this output to reset the counter. So let's take a look here. So I'm going to turn all my resets off. I'm going to connect the Dorschden Swing Trend solver. So remember, this solver, that's what's coming out of that solver. So I'm going to use these short signals coming out of it. I'm going to use these short signals to reset, or basically turn off, the counter from counting the long signals here for that uptrend. So let me connect that into the reset. And so I'm going to use, let's see, reset opposite signal. Let me stretch this out. Right? So the reset, that word means it's looking at the reset connector here. Right? So you can see there's an input and a reset on the signal counter. So I want to look at the reset, and if an opposite signal comes in, I want to reset the solver itself. So look at what happens here. So basically in this uptrend, the signal counter found its third signal, right? Found its third signal, and so this is telling us that 3 uptrend swings have been identified at this point. And if we look at our down, so here's, so we got a low point 1, low point 2, low point 3, and the signal counter is saying, oh, I've counted 3 low points when I'm looking back. I've counted 3 low points when I'm looking back. Right, so back here, back to the uptrend, this long output is saying it's counted 3 higher highs looking back. So in this uptrend, it's counted 3 higher highs. Right, so that's what's coming out of the signal counter. So now the next step is we need to invert this. We need to invert the output because we need a short signal when it can trade, and we need no signal when it cannot trade. So right now, what's coming out of the signal blocker is whenever we see these long signals, remember this long signal gives permission to take a short trade. I'm sorry, these short signals give permission to take a short trade, right? Because eventually we're going to have to connect the signal blocker into an AND node. So just to kind of illustrate, to point out again how filters work. So remember, so there's just the raw trade signals, going back to the raw trade signals, and we filtered them out using this solver. So remember, this solver was giving a short output, right? And there's no long output. So there's no long output. That's what's important, is that there's no long output. And so that's why when you look at the AND node, there's no long outputs here, because this solver had no long outputs during this area, right? So with the signal counter, right, we need the signal counter to have a short output, you know, during the first 3 swing points. So we need to invert it. So let's see. So to invert it, we're going to grab the inverter here. Alright, so now if we look at our downtrend area, now we have a short output, right? So this will allow the short signals to get through until we get to our 3rd low point, and then the short outputs turn off, and so no more short trades in here in this area. So, and we don't have to worry about the long output here, right? We do see we have a long output, but remember, we cleaned up our signals here. So remember, there are no long signals here, so we cleaned up the trade signals first, so we don't have to worry about any long trades taking place, because we've already kind of cleaned them up ahead of time. Yeah, so even though the signal counter gives permission to take a long trade here, there are no long signals because they've been cleaned up. So, all right, let me zoom out here. And so now we take our signals and filter them out with the signal counter, like so. And there we go. So here's our downtrend. We get short signals before, right, or during the first 3 low points, and then no more signals afterwards. Alright, now we do see a bunch of long signals here, and that's going to be because, let's see, let's take a look at our trend. Yeah, as you can see in this area, basically the Dorschden Swing solver identified a long trend here during this, and yeah, it makes sense because price broke above the previous high point there and kind of put us in a weak downtrend, uptrend, but nevertheless, you know, that's, remember, we're just using kind of simple solvers here to identify a trend. So yeah, so that's why we got a bunch of long signals here, and we never did get three high points before it switched to a downtrend. So let's see, let's take a look again here. There we go. So there's that short period of an uptrend, and then it switched to So we didn't get enough high points. Yeah, we didn't get enough high points. We were definitely within our three count of high points here. So then went into a downtrend. Let's see. Let's take a look back here. Let's look at this uptrend here. So let me mark the signals. All right. So these are the counted signals. All right. Let's take a look at the raw signals. And oh yeah, so we did get, there we go, we did get a fourth one, and it did get filtered out. Yeah, let's see. So it looks like we got high point 1, high point 2, and high point 3. Yeah, so that makes sense why this signal got filtered out, because let's see, there was our third high point right there. So let's take a look here. So these are all right, so those are kind of the counted signals. Actually, not signals, counted, what should we call these? Swing points, yeah. Okay, yeah, just remember, so I had two solvers here, one that counted the low points for a downtrend. So I had one solver that counted our low points for a downtrend. Then I had this other solver that counted the high points for a downtrend. So depending on what you want to do, basically you can just stick different signals into the signal counter, and we'll get different results. Maybe. Let's see. I guess it's always good to have the original trade signals marked. So let's see. Let's see. All right, so we got 4 short signals when we're counting the low points. And if we're counting the high points, let's see if it makes a difference. No, it didn't. Didn't make much of a difference. Let's check over here. Let's see. Yeah, this is counting the low points for an uptrend, and still 3 signals. Didn't make much of a difference here either. That's probably just by random chance. So, all right. So, TV's got a question about using the SI swing indicator. Or I'm sorry, the SI swings highs lows indicator here. And so he'd like to know how to identify when the previous bar's close is above the whitest bottom, so above the magenta line, but the current bar is below the magenta line. Okay, so let me find that. Let me find an example on that. chart here for a TB. Yep, here we go. Here's an example. So right here. So basically what we did is we have the closing price of the bar crossing the TB line. Crossing that TB line. So that bar is above it, and that bar is below the line. So this is what TBs want to identify here. All right. Let's see. Let me. I'll work on a create a new logic template for this. Let's see. All right, so we'll build a solver here that's going to identify when price crosses the lower low, a lower low, or a higher high, right? So essentially, this is a crossover condition. So we've got the closing price crossing the widest bottoms or the widest tops. So let's grab a crossover. Let's connect that up. All right, so we got price crossing the lower low or the higher high. All right, so indicator A, we're going to set that to the closing price. So let's set it to price, and it's already on the closing price. Now we'll set indicator B, we'll set that up to our swing highs lows indicator. So let me just double check what the settings are that I have. All right, so on the chart I have 2 and 5 as my settings. So let's go back here. Let's go grab that indicator. There it is. So let's set the indicator settings to match what's on the chart, like so. And let's generate a short signal when price crosses the widest bottoms. And if price crosses the widest tops, we'll generate a long signal, like so. And let's take a look. All right, price crossed there, and price crossed up, like that. Right, price crossed up again over here. Yep, price crossed below. And yeah, so of course we got price crossing our high point a couple of times there. So all right, so I think that does it. TB, it's pretty straightforward. Let me I'm just kind of cleaning up my board here and deleting some stuff. Alright, so let me just kind of show that to you there so you can take note, and I'll move on to the next question. So let's cover the last solver on the list, and then next week I'll start going over the function nodes in detail. Alright, so let me get a new logic template going here. Alright, so time session solver. So this solver was created to block trade signals when you don't want trade signals to occur, right? So if you don't want to see trade signals after hours, that's what this guy was designed to do. So let's see, let me just throw, let's see, I had made a solver here. Here we go. So I'd made this solver here just to kind of generate, some simple trade signals, right? So there's a bunch of simple trade signals here. Okay, so let's set up our time session solver here. So, so right now it's set right at Ninja defaults to the 24/7 session here. So if we look at our chart, right, this output is coming from the time solver. So when it has a long and a short output, right, as a filter, that will allow long and trade signals to go through. So if, all right, we're at the edge of the chart. So if I scroll back, basically, we'll see that this long and short output is always there. It never ends. And that's because, right, that's obviously because we're using the default 24/7 session. So if we click that button, that'll open up Ninja's session manager, right? So this is the Ninja session manager. It's the same as going to tools, which looks like I can't have them open at the same time. So if we go to tools and go to session manager, right, it's the same session manager. So that's what this solver is opening up, is Ninja's session manager. So let's go, let me pick a built-in session here to use that as an example. Let's see, let's use CME US index futures. Let's see. All right, so this is Central Time. So 8:30 in the morning Central Time is when the market opens. And let's see, yep. So this would be 4:15 on Eastern Time. So this would be 9:30 Eastern Time, 4:15 Eastern Time. And that's when the futures market closes, is at 4:15. However, keep in mind your broker wants you out at 4 o'clock, or at least by 4:05. So your broker won't let you stay in until 4:15 unless you got the margin to cover it. But let me just select that just for demonstration. So now if we look, there's no output from that solver because it's early, it's too early in the morning. So let's scroll forward. All right, so on my time zone, 7:30 is when the market opens in my time zone. So we can see now we have a output here, right? So this would allow long and short trades to pass through. So let's take a look at this again here. So let's look at just the trade signals, right? And let's mark this yeah, I think that's the bar. Yeah, this is the bar after 7:30 in the morning when market opens my time. So we can see we have all these signals here. So now if we connect the time solver in, it will filter out all the early morning trades. So let's keep looking back. Let's go to the end of the trading day. And there we go. So 2 o'clock is, well, 2:15 actually, right? Remember our session template is set to 15 minutes after the hour. So that would be 2:15 my time. And there we go. There's the 2:15 bar. So there's no signals afterwards. right? So you can use it like this to filter your trades so that you're only seeing trades during market hours or whatever times you want. So if you only want signals during a couple of hours during the day, then what you would need is you would have to create go in here and let's see, where is it? New. You can create a custom session here. I probably already have a couple of customs made. Let's see. I thought I had more in here. Well, let me just make one. So let's make a new one. And I put an underscore so that way it goes to the top of the list. It's easier to find all your custom ones if you put an underscore first. And let's just say, the first 2 hours. First 2 hours in the morning. So, alright, so next thing is just basically to go in and build your own custom session. So, we don't want Sunday, I want to do Monday. Alright, so the first 2 hours for me would be 7:30 to 9:30. And not PM, let's see, I want AM, sorry. There we go, 7:30 AM to 9:30 AM. First 2 hours. And so once you have Monday built, here's a little shortcut. This is a little ninja tip. You can add Monday through Friday by right-clicking, and you didn't have to build the rest of the days, right? So let's see. Oh, and make sure that you have your time zone set correctly. So this is actually 7:30 Eastern time. So if I use my time, I need to go use the correct time zone here. There we go. So it's 7:30 my time now. Just make sure you select the correct time zone. So, alright, click OK. So now, let's scroll back here. Alright, so there's 9:30, signals end. And there we go, 7:30 when the signals start. And so what you could do is, you could add another time session solver. So let's see, I can rename this. So I can name this solver here so I know what it's looking at. And then if I wanted to, I could grab another solver. And I'd have to connect these two together with an OR node. And I can create another custom session. Alright, so I can create like a second block of time that I want to be able to trade in here. So let's set this up. And so let's say from 11 to 1. So it's kind of like my next time block. And set my time zone. There we go. Add that. Save it. There we go. And it's saved. So if I look at this OR node, Right, there's my first block of time, and then I have a gap where no signals could get through, and then my second block of time. Right, so that's how you can create custom blocks of time. So if I look at the signals here, and let me name this. Right, so we can see no signals get through during this empty block of time. So if you're, trying to set stuff up to be as automated as possible, then you can also use this time solver to make sure that Raven is flat before the market is closed. So let's see. So I'm going to make a new logic template here. Alright, so we'll set up an exit before the market close. So, you can use the time solver in an exit strategy. So let's see. I could probably, let's see if I can use just one of these pre-built ones here from Ninja. Yeah, I'm not sure if, let's see, let's check that one. Yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. U.S. equities, 4 p.m. Eastern time. So that's usually when the broker wants you out, is at 4 p.m. So, okay, cool. We'll use that one. And so what we can do is we can change the output here. So we can see that yeah, this is marking, right, this is identifying when we're in the session. But if we want to use this for an exit, set that to 0 and set the not in session to 1. Right, so here's after hours when the market's closed, and so this long and short signal can be used to exit a trade in Raven, within Raven, right? So if we pull up Raven here, right, so this exit logic that Raven has, you can use this time solver, use that time solver, in an exit logic, and set that up to have Raven use that. So what would happen is Raven would flatten any trades before the market. Well, it would flatten trades, with whatever you have your time solver set up to. So. Right. So in this case, Raven would. Oh yeah. Here's something to note. Whenever you open this up, Ninja always defaults back to the default 27. It always goes back to the default 24/7. So let's go back in here. I got to select it again. Yeah. So in this case, whenever it's after, whenever the first bar to close after 4 p.m. is, that would tell Raven to close the trade out. So you might want to make your own custom session here, to maybe close your trade out like a minute or two before 4 o'clock, something like that, just to be safe, because you don't want your broker doing a margin call on your account. That's never good. Oh. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Those are the two basic uses for the time session solver. is, one, to use in your exit logic, to make sure that you're getting an exit signal after hours. And then, of course, the other one is to, kind of restrict the trade signals during a certain hours. So we do get asked, can you do news events? So this is what the solver uses. It uses Ninja's session manager, and the session manager does not take into account news events. So if you want to prevent trading by news events, you would need to have an indicator that can identify those news events for you. And then that indicator that identifies news events would then need to have a way, would need to be written so that it will communicate to BloodHound those news events. So I believe, yes, I believe it's Ninjacators has a news event indicator that works with BloodHound. So if you are needing some kind of a news event system, added to your BloodHound, then the Ninjacators, it has an indicator that identifies various news events, and you can use that in a threshold solver. So I can't actually demo that with you because I don't have that indicator, but you would use it in a threshold solver. One thing to note about NinjaTrader is these session templates in Ninja do not transfer from one computer to another. Unfortunately, this is one this is one thing I'd say is pretty important that Ninja kind of overlooked, and which is, if you have a custom session, there's no way to transfer this to another computer, unfortunately. You basically just have to take a screenshot of these settings, and then on the other computer rebuild the same session. You have to use the same name and use the same times, and then you could open up this BloodHound template on another computer, with that custom session. So if I save this BloodHound like this, you guys would not be able to open these custom sessions here because they only exist on my computer. So you'd have to build these on your computer in order to get, or in order to use the same custom sessions. So yeah, we are in BloodHound version 2. We're gonna compensate for that. We're gonna provide a way that you can actually set some stuff in the solver itself in BloodHound, so that way your settings can get transferred to another computer. So yeah, so for now, it's best that I just set this back to what everybody has. So that way when you open this file, these solvers will work for you guys. Great. Looks like we're done. Thanks, guys. Hope to see you next week. Bye-bye.